In this module, we will be studying the monthly auditing process on a cellular account and how to properly import the cellular information, usage data, and reconcile it to the expected values in TAMS. We'll begin from the TAMS scheduler, and we will identify an account that is due to be audited, and then proceed to download the information for the account and run the scripts to import the usage, import it and reconcile it, and then look for additional cost savings opportunities. So for this session, we will be using a AT&T account with a client called Brickmont. So notice that the AT&T wireless account bills on the 15th of each month, and that we have it scheduled in the scheduler to be processed approximately 1 week after the invoice date, because AT&T Wireless's online account does not make the invoice available for approximately 1 week after the bill cycle. So we will right-click on that task entry in the scheduler, and we will select View Account. This navigates us to the cellular account details form for Brickmont's AT&T Wireless account. The typical process of receiving the information is to open the wireless AT&T Wireless portal and then log in to their Business Direct with the username and password, which is stored with the client details. We have previously done this because it may take 1 to 24 hours after requesting the invoice for it to be available for download. And to expedite this training session, we've previously logged in, requested the invoice for the given billing cycle, and then downloaded it into our Windows Explorer folder. So we will skip that particular step of downloading and receiving the PDF invoice. Once we have the invoice downloaded, we open it up, and we're working on the June 5th invoice. Now, the first thing we do is which is common for most of our carriers with PDF invoices, whether it be landline or cellular, is that we need to copy and paste the information from the PDF into a text file and then run our conversion script to create the data into TAMS compatible import format. So the first step will be to create a text file that is going to maintain the text components of the PDF file. So once we've created the text file, we open a blank text file, and then we just select all of the usage in all of the text in the document. And we can do that by using the Edit menu, Select All, or do it using the keyboard shortcut of Control-A. And then we can copy it with a Control-C, or again using the Edit menu. And then we move over to the text file and we do a Control-V for paste, or just Control-V from the Edit menu. And then we will edit and save, exit and save that. So that is the simple process of exporting getting the PDF file into a text format. The reason we do this is so that we can then run the scripts to extract the information that we're interested in from the text file, and to put that into the import format compatible with TAMS. Now, the cellular scripts vary slightly from the landline scripts. Notice that under the script commands, we're actually going to be running the script several times, which is how it is different from landlines, which typically we only run the script once. With wireless scripts, there are several different types of usage data that need to be imported. And we separate out all international calling and international roaming, the voice components, separately from the rest of the usage. And this will become self-evident later when we import it as to why this approach is taken. The nature of roaming in different countries or calling different countries is particularly challenging because of the abbreviations of country names that are used by each carrier. And we incorporate the use of a file to help translate those abbreviations into well-known country names that TAMS can interpret during the import process. You can imagine, for example, that a phone that is a United States phone number that is traveling in Germany but makes a phone call to another United States phone number, that the call record itself does not give any indication that it was from Germany. The billed phone number and the dialed phone number are both United States phone numbers. So the invoices will have some textual information in them that it's roaming in Germany, but it may be very cryptic. And so in order to get TAMS to understand that they're roaming in Germany, we incorporate a map file. And just to preview a little bit of what that map file looks like, we will sort this list, and I'll show you. It's called ATT wireless _ CC map for country code map. And within there is basically a listing that shows what the abbreviation looks like within the AT&T file, or PDF or text file that we've extracted, and what country that maps into. Notice for Canada, they will use actually a city name and then the two-letter abbreviation of the province. But for roaming purposes, they are all treated as Canada because roaming charges are driven by what country you are roaming in, not what country you are dialing to. Similarly, you'll notice that India is also incorporated, and this map file is something that can be maintained on an as-needed basis. Since it can include city names, there is no single comprehensive list of abbreviations that are used within the AT&T wireless account or AT&T wireless world to map into standard country names for TAMS. So this is something that may need to be maintained periodically by the end user so that when a new abbreviation is encountered, it can simply be added to the map file and used and reused for future billing cycles. So without much more emphasis on this particular file at this point in time, we may come back to this later if we find that there are new countries that are not listed in this mapping file that we need to make adjustments for. Okay, so we have two commands. One is to extract the normal usage into a comma-delimited file for import, and that normal usage will include voice usage for peak and off-peak and mobile-to-mobile minutes. It will also include text messaging usage, data usage, and other common usage information. The international command is signified by putting a -i at the end, and that -i says that to extract only the international calling and roaming usage and to put that into a separate file with a separate output file name. So we'll start with running the script for the primary, what we call the basic core usage. And we do that by double-clicking on the shortcut to the script, and we can copy and paste the input file name, which is the text file, and then the output file name, which is what the results will be stored in. And notice it describes what the various optional switches are at the end. In this default case, we don't use any optional switches. So we run that, and we'll see that there were 12 records extracted and put into the CSV file. Now we're going to rerun that same script, but this time with a different option for the international. And we double-click the shortcut for the script. we paste our input string and our output with our output file name, and now we're incorporating the -I command option in the command line, and it will go through and extract call records for international. Let's explore the details of each of these files. The first file is the default, and we can just simply open it with Excel. It is a common delimited file. And you'll notice that for each phone number, there is a single row that shows the various fields of usage categories that have been extracted. So in this particular case, we will pull these columns a little wider so that we can see what they each say. And this first phone has had 49 minutes of peak usage, 3 minutes of off-peak usage, for 62 minutes of mobile-to-mobile, and so on. You can see the data transfer, international. These are kilobytes of data usage. There's domestic and international usage. There's text messages that have been sent or received. International text messages may be included, such as this example in here. Those are also, they may be messages that are sent while roaming in another country. And then there is always it pulls the total cost of each of the phone numbers for this given billing cycle. And that will be used to import and calibrate not just the entire bill, but on a phone-by-phone basis so that we know when there is not a match, which phone numbers are not matching properly. Notice, though, that this bill has a secondary section to it, which are called billing adjustments. And in many cases, we are able to pull out one-time charges, which are not usage-based and are not monthly recurring in nature, and import those as billing adjustments to save the manual effort of trying to isolate and identify and enter these manual adjustments. So they are also imported with the standard option when running the script. Let's explore examine the international usage file that was also created. So we have a two-stage import process, and again, we will adjust these columns. That you can see the phone numbers that have made calls to foreign countries from the United States, or made calls from those foreign countries to other countries. Notice a side effect of the way Excel formats phone numbers which are more than 10 digits in length. When dealing with international phone numbers, they're always preceded by the country code. And so China has a country code of 86. And normally, the phone number would look as a simple string of integer digits. But Excel automatically will take longer digits and convert them to exponential format, which disrupts the format that we would like to have. So anytime you're working with Excel and you have phone numbers that are more than 10 digits, it's best to change the format of those columns to a numerical format and to eliminate the decimal places at the end of those numbers. Now we can see the full string of digits. The alternative is when you open these files to examine them and you exit out, just do not save them. Otherwise, they will be saved in the exponential format and will not be useful when importing for TAMS to be able to interpret as a phone number. So we noticed that the first column is the billed phone number that is being charged for either international calling or roaming. The second column indicates whether the particular row for a given phone number has to do with roaming or just international long distance from within their home country. So the second phone number that we see actually is composed of 3 records. 2 of them are not roaming, and 1 of them is roaming. And then the third and fourth columns indicate the originating country of the call and the terminating country of the call. So we can see that the non-roaming ones are from the U.S. to China and also to mobile phone in China. TAMS has the ability to import usage to different destinations within the same country, as long as those countries are defined within the TAMS country code table. Let's explore how that looks within TAMS. Under the administration tool, we have a table of country codes. This is a universal table that is used throughout all clients and all accounts within TAMS. So only an administrator should be making additions or changes to this table because of the nature of its universal nature. It could have very broad consequences to all accounts within TAMS. Notice when we look at China that we have two entries listed for China. One is for China and one is for China-mobile. And they both have the same country code to access them and the same IDD and NDD prefixes. By having multiple entries within TAMS for the same country, it allows us to create an international calling plan. We'll examine the plan details here for the Cell International. And we can see that there are there's the ability to have a rate to a country as specified by the that we can have a country specified with a given rate. We can also look at tables that have multiple rates to the same country, such as this particular table shown here, where calls to China may be at one rate and calls to China mobile phones may be at a second rate, even though they both have the same country code. So by having multiple entries for the same country code, we're able to specify different rates to that same country. During the import process, TAMS will examine the country, the digits of the remote phone number. It will also examine the name in the terminating country. And it will attempt to search through the rate table to find a match on either terminating country name or using the first few digits of the dialed phone number, and then look for the closest cost match to those total costs. So the script is grouping the phone calls by originating and terminating country pairs. In this example, this particular phone made one call for a duration of 41 minutes and a cost of $6.15 to China at that phone number. It also made one call to a mobile phone in China for 23 minutes at a cost of $4.14. But notice that while roaming in China, that it made 19 calls back to the United States with a sample phone number. Now, this is just a sample phone number which TAMS uses to identify the country code, although it will know the country code from this particular terminating country of the United States. But it was 19 calls for a total duration of 88 minutes and a total cost of $175.12. This record is an aggregate record of actually 19 separate individual calls. But because they're all from the same originating country, they will all be billed at the same rate. So we import those in an aggregate form. Okay, so the international usage has a variety of variables based on the phone number that's being billed, whether it is roaming in another country, what the originating and terminating country combinations are, a sample remote phone number for that collection of calls, and it will be aggregated along those originating and terminating boundaries for each billed phone number. So another phone number that is also making calls from China to the United States will have its own set of aggregate usage, and that's because that phone may be on a separate roaming plan than the quite previous phone, which was also roaming in China. So we can have two separate phones, both roaming in China and having their own separate rate plans. So this is the structure of the international usage data. Once we've taken the simple task of running the script for those two import files, we will proceed with creating a billing cycle for this month and importing the data and reconciling it. So we will look at the current charges of $1,522.02, and this is for the billing cycle of June 5th. So we will start by adding the month, and this is on the account invoice data tab. We're going to put in the total cost from the supplier, and we're going to leave the default for manual entry. Now, even though it says manual entry and the usage could manually be typed in, we will be importing that data. When we click the Add Update Billing Cycle, since the June 5th, 2011 invoice cycle does not already exist, then it will be creating a new billing cycle. When it does so, it initializes all of the phone lines for every service that are active on the account on June 5th. We have a selection of tabs across the top for each type of usage. The basic usage is your voice usage, and it's broken into peak, off-peak, mobile-to-mobile, peak, and off-peak, with separate columns for inbound and outbound if the carrier provides the data in that level of detail. If it doesn't provide it in inbound, outbound detail, then it's typically all grouped under the outbound category. AT&T in this case does not separate those because they do not offer a free inbound plan. There's another other usage tab, which also would be dealing with direct connect usage for Sprint, Nextel, or other carriers that offer direct connect features, rollover minute allowances, roaming minutes, long distance, which would be, these are domestic roaming and domestic long distance, which are more useful for legacy type of plans. Nowadays, most plans have national directory assistance or national roaming and national long distance. Directory assistance calls and any minutes for call forwarding or call waiting. We also have messaging, which would be extracted through those scripts, and there is your text messaging, picture messaging, video messaging, international roaming, and whether they are on-net or off-net, because various providers offer different allowances, whether those text messages are within their network or off-network with other carriers. Then we have data usage, which is domestic usage, and then two tiers of international data usage. Many carriers offer a North American type plan, and the overage on those plans would be at one rate, and then all other countries that you would be roaming in would be billed at a separate overage rate. So we can provide for two tiers of international usage. Or in the case of some carriers like AT&T, they actually have a select list of countries and then other countries. So they will also have two tiers of international roaming countries. And then we have the international usage, which is where we're going to actually look at the voice usage, calling to foreign countries or roaming in those foreign countries. We also provide for ancillary services. This account does not have any to demonstrate, but they can be fixed fees such as handset insurance, or they could be a per-use type of a service as well. And then we have the billing cycle costs table, which we'll return once we import our data. So we begin by importing our usage data, and by clicking the import usage data, we start off at the root folder for this client. We drill down to the AT&T wireless account, and we will select the international usage first. It's best to import and reconcile the international usage before the remainder usage because of the challenges of mapping abbreviated country names into full country names. And if we have to make any changes, we can do so without having to go back and re-import the standard usage data. So when we select the file and click Open, we will get a dialog that tells us what the result of that import is. And so in this particular example, we got a message that said that for one of the phone numbers, for calls that were from the USA to China, that the import file had computed rates of 15 cents per minute, but that the international rate table that we are trying to validate towards has that rate for U.S. to China at 18 cents per minute. Let's examine the details of that particular message. So we can leave that window open, and we can go to the international table, and we will look at the phone number that ends in 7638. 7638 is on a plan that has a World Connect plan, which gives discounted calls from the U.S. to other countries, and it also has a World Traveler plan, which gives discounted roaming while in other countries. If we go examine the plan details, we will see that the entry for the U.S. to China is listed at, for mobile, is listed at 18 cents per minute. But we do not have a rate in here for U.S. to China non-mobile. And what is being indicated here is that there are two different rates for World Connect to China non-mobile and China mobile. So what we will do is we will add the second entry for China non-mobile at 15 cents a minute. We could verify this by looking at the AT&T website and looking at their current international rates. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we will simply just add the 15 cents. Now we have two rates to China, one for calls to China and one to China mobile. And we will save that. The other message in here is that there was a rate initialized on this phone number and whatever international plan it has for calls from the U.S. to the United Kingdom at 8 cents a minute. So again, let's take a look at that phone number to explore this warning. And we will see that this phone number has an international plan that is also the same plan of World Connect and World Traveler. So we can return to that same table, and we will see that the calls from the U.S. to the United Kingdom have been initialized for us at 8 cents per minute. Prior to importing this data, this entry did not exist in the table. This is a convenience factor of TAMS, so that if the table is examined to validate the cost and an entry for the two countries of origin and termination are not already listed, then it will compute based on the cost and the total duration of all the calls what the per minute rate is that is being billed and automatically initialize that rate in the table. So by virtue of importing the data, the table can be automatically populated. It would still be up to the analyst to determine if those rates are accurate or not, but at least the efforts of populating the table is alleviated, that it is automatically added, and it is informed as such through the message that is an informative message. It is not an error message. It is just informative messages that help the analyst understand what has occurred during the import process. So if we were to return and re-import the data, now that we have added a separate rate for calls to China and the rate to the United Kingdom has already been initialized, then the subsequent imports of the same data should not produce any warning messages. So let's ensure that that is, in fact, what happens. So to eliminate the data that we've already imported, even though those were warning messages, the data was still imported and saved. and we can click on the link for underneath the international costs for any given phone and see exactly how much usage was being imported and what countries it was associated to. Notice that this particular phone, that even though there was usage to China landline and China mobile, since it could not find a perfect match, but the country codes for China and China mobile did match, they were both assigned to China mobile because the China landline entry did not exist in our rate table. So we expect this table to look different if we were to re-import this data. These other entries are also have been populated for each of the phones with usage. So if we want to re-import this data, we can begin by selecting the lines that have usage and deleting those records. And then clicking refresh, which will restore the placeholders for the information. So now we've eliminated the international usage that was imported, and we can re-import this data at in just a matter of a few seconds here to select our file and click open. This time, all the data was imported, and we received no warning messages. And if we go and explore the usage, we will now see that the data associated and validated to each of the entries for China and China Mobile on this particular phone number. Okay, so that is the essence of importing international usage. And notice there's $423 of total international usage without the consideration of taxes. And the savings of the plans that these may have started on various baselines that were not World Traveler plans or World Connect plans could be even far greater than $423. So the management of international usage can be very substantial, and the savings quite rewarding. The remainder of the bills is from importing the standard usage, and we will go ahead and import that. So we're going to look for the correct billing cycle, select the invoice. And now we see that all of the usage was imported and we received no warning messages. Once the usage is imported, it's a good idea to save that usage and to click this button that says Check Data Integrity. And this will indicate whether or not there are any problems with the baseline or current plans where perhaps a directory assistance field has a zero cost in it, or the baseline plan does not include international rates for a given country combination. Anything that seems to be missing from both the current and billable baseline plans will be flagged in this data integrity check. You can refer to the help for more information about that. In this particular instance, this warning is telling us that there is no rollover allowance that there is a rollover allowance on the plans, but there's no rollover allowances on those particular phones that was imported. So if we go take a look at those phones, and that rollover allowance is listed under the Other Usage tab, we can see that this particular group, Share Group 2, actually does have 1,458 minutes of rollover allowance from the previous month. So we know that this particular account group has a carryover of unused minutes from previous months, and the script is smart enough to extract that information from the PDF and import it automatically. Notice the secondary phones, even though they also provide for rollover, they have no additional allowance, that they're all grouped up on one primary, and the first group has no rollover allowance at all. That's the essence of the nature of this warning, is that it's just saying that, hey, there is an allowance, but we don't see any rollover on those phones. So again, it's more informative than really a problem. It's just an informational message. And it has all the messaging data and the data, both domestic and international. So we'll focus now on the billing cycle cost tab. And what we will do is we will calculate, let TAMS calculate from all of the usage that has been imported and all of the known plan parameters for the cellular account, what the expected cost of the full account and each individual phone is. So the calculation shows that the actual expected cost is $1,514, and that the supplier invoice was $1,522. So the total cost match to